their first ever Commissioner's Cup championship, knocking off the Minnesota Lynx.
Ebony's the goal! Hey, let's go! Wnba!
The Indiana Fever just delivered one of the most impressive wins of the season, and yet the WNBA acted like it never even happened. While the team celebrated a hard-fought Commissioner's Cup victory, Caitlin Clark dropped a post-game comment so sharp it sent ripples across the league. And just when things were already heating up, Barstool Sports founder Dave Portnoy jumped into the conversation, calling out the WNBA in a now viral tweet that lit up social media. But that wasn't all. Things escalated even further when Phoenix Mercury forward Sato Sabali made a statement of her own, stirring even more conversation about how certain players and teams are being treated. At this point, it's clear, in the WNBA, nothing ever comes without controversy. And this week, the tension is off the charts. We're unpacking all the drama, reactions, and what it really means for the future of the league. But before we dive in, if you've noticed the double standards being played out this season, drop a "stop the sidelines" in the comments, because the silence is loud and it's time for fans to speak up. Now, let's get into what really happened after the Fever's big win. A clip from inside the Fever locker room has taken over social media, and for good reason. In the middle of the celebration, Caitlin Clark delivered a one-liner that instantly grabbed everyone's attention. With a calm but confident tone, she said what many fans were already thinking. The rest of the league isn't exactly thrilled about what just happened. Just 6 words. That's all it took to light up social media. Caitlin Clark's post-game moment quickly went viral, not just because it was bold, but because it struck a nerve. It wasn't just about a win for Indiana. It was a statement for every fan who's noticed how the WNBA often downplays Clark's impact. And right on cue, Dave Portnoy added fuel to the fire. He reposted the clip with a comment that got everyone talking. Caitlin was hilarious all night during the celebration, but the fact that the Commissioner's Cup pays more than the actual WNBA finals, that's just insane. And whether you agree with Portnoy or not, his point sparked a much bigger conversation. Why does a mid-season event come with a higher prize payout than the league's ultimate championship? But the real twist, instead of embracing one of the most exciting moments of the season, the WNBA seemed to downplay it entirely. No highlight push, no major social media celebration, almost like they weren't thrilled Indiana pulled off the win. Even ESPN appeared to misfire, reportedly preparing content titled "Lynx Dominate Fever to Win Commissioner's Cup" before the game had even ended. But once Indiana pulled off the upset, that video disappeared quickly, almost like it had never existed. And that's when things really shifted. Instead of focusing on Indiana's incredible performance, parts of the media quietly moved the spotlight elsewhere, flipping the narrative entirely.
Lynx dominate Fever to win Commissioner's Cup.
Suddenly, the conversation shifted. Instead of crediting the Indiana Fever for their smart strategy, relentless effort, or sheer determination, the narrative started to change. Now, some voices in the media are claiming the Fever were too physical. That's right. Instead of celebrating a gritty, hard-fought win, the focus turned to the team's intensity on defense. Natasha Howard's elite-level defense and Aaliyah Boston's dominant presence in the paint didn't sit well with everyone, but let's be clear. This wasn't about being overly aggressive. This was about executing a game plan with discipline, toughness, and heart.
Really are. But I think Fee got really frustrated by the refs. I think
You have to ask, are we really going to pretend that makes sense?
Boston by Natasha Howard really started.
It's hard not to notice the double standard. Where was this concern when Caitlin Clark was taking hard contact game after game? Whether it was hip checks, elbows, or being knocked to the floor, most just brushed it off as part of the league's physical play.
I feel like it was a little bit of that physicality and a little bit of the refs that she was battling. What do you think?
And when the Indiana Fever respond with grit and intensity, it suddenly becomes controversial. The narrative keeps shifting. If they lose, they're dismissed. If they win, their success is questioned. questioned. The inconsistency is hard to ignore. Head coach Christy Sides saw the chatter, the injuries, and all the predictions that counted them out, and made a statement. Her team responded by turning up the pressure, locking in on defense, and executing a stunning 18-0 run that completely changed the tone of the game. Minnesota was caught off guard, and the Fever took full advantage, claiming the Commissioner's Cup in dominant fashion. But instead of giving them the credit they earned, some voices in the media labeled them as overly physical, even calling them bullies, raising concerns only when that toughness came from Indiana. Still, despite the criticism, even the loudest skeptics couldn't ignore what happened on that court. In the end, the results spoke louder than the commentary.
With these two, but the one thing I know about sports, you need rivalry. That's what makes people watch. They want to watch games of consequence between rivals. They don't want
This might have been Indiana's most impressive defensive effort of the entire season, so why not celebrate it? Instead, it's being spun into controversy, as if playing with intensity somehow crossed a line. Rather than giving credit where it's due, some have tried to turn a strong performance into a scandal. And just when it seemed like the conversation couldn't get more dramatic, Satudu Sabali added her voice to the mix, stirring things up even more.
Credit, I want to give all credit to Indiana's defense. I thought this was probably the best defensive performance we've seen from them this season.
While league officials are celebrating expansion news and praising themselves for growing the brand, many players are raising valid concerns, asking why existing issues aren't being addressed first. Everyone supports the idea of a bigger, stronger WNBA, but the foundation needs to be solid. Even Phoenix Mercury forward and WNBPA representative Sato Sabali echoed that sentiment publicly.
Focus on our players in the union. We got a proposal from the league, which was honestly a slap in the face.
It's exciting to see the WNBA expanding, but the way it's being managed has raised some serious questions. Shortly after the league proudly unveiled plans to introduce new teams in Cleveland, Detroit, and Philadelphia, Satu Sabali didn't hold back. Instead of celebrating blindly, she called out the proposed terms of the new collective bargaining agreement for what they really were, falling short of what players truly need.
But I love to see the league growing. I think, adding these teams in Philly and Detroit, that's how amazing is that the league can grow. But
Sato Sabali didn't hold back, calling it a slap in the face. And she wasn't exaggerating. Her frustration came from a real place. Right now, WNBA rosters are capped at just 12 players. That means talented athletes like Ari McDonald are struggling to find consistent roles, while others bounce between hardship contracts with little security. It's a revolving door, not a sustainable system. Sabali made a strong point. Before celebrating expansion and adding new franchises, the league should first ensure that the current players are given the minutes, support, and investment they deserve. And that was just the beginning.
Maybe focus on the teams also that find excuses continuously to lack investment into their players before we focus on adding more to the grain of people that can't.
Breanna Stewart, two-time WNBA champion, league MVP, and one of the most respected voices in the sport, finally said out loud what many fans and players have been thinking all along.
What Breanna Stewart said. Breanna Stewart expressed frustrations after WBPA received their first CBA negotiation from the league.
Stewart didn't hold back, expressing how deeply players are feeling the disconnect. She explained that while negotiations naturally involve back and forth, the expectation is at least a dialogue. Instead, she said players were met with silence, like their voices weren't being acknowledged at all.
This was a response from Breanna Stewart. Stewart expressed frustration after the WNBPA received their first CBA negotiations. The WNBPA is negotiating for larger salary, shares of league revenue, and improved conditions.
When someone with Breanna Stewart's experience speaks out, it carries serious weight. And while the league celebrates its growth, many are noticing how heavily it's leaning on Caitlin Clark's rising popularity to drive that momentum.
Because of Caitlin Clark, the WNBA has experienced unprecedented growth that is based on an incredibly fragile foundation.
The WNBA is currently negotiating a major media rights deal, one that could skyrocket annual revenue from around $60 million to an estimated $270 million. Yes, that's right, more than quadrupling what the league earns today.
240 is what they initially talked about. So it's two.
Even with this massive influx of revenue on the horizon, players are still waiting for meaningful improvements. Things like expanded rosters, higher salaries, and proper family care benefits. Take Kelsey Mitchell, for example. She recently signed a contract worth around $249,000. While that's a solid number, it pales in comparison to the kind of money the league is projected to bring in. For many, it feels like they're still only getting a small slice of a much bigger pie.
Safe to assume that with the new media rights deal, all right, they're going to be going from around 60 in a year to 200 and over 250. Okay, $1 million a year, all in, all said and done.
With the league's financial future looking brighter, it's fair to say that salaries like Kelsey Mitchell's could eventually double, potentially reaching $600,000 or more. But beyond the numbers, there's a deeper message resonating across the league. As Caitlin Clark boldly said in the locker room, everybody in the league is sick, not literally, but sick of being overlooked, underpaid, and asked to stay patient while the league capitalizes on their hard work. If changes aren't made soon, this moment could either become a wake-up call or a breaking point, because this isn't just about one player, one win, or one viral moment. It's about an entire league striving for progress, while some of its most valuable contributors feel sidelined. If you believe it's time the WNBA treats all its players with the respect and resources they deserve, drop a "Stop the Sidelines" in the comments. And make sure to like this video, subscribe, and turn on notifications, because the story is far from over.